Won't you celebrate with me what I've made into some kind of life? I had no model. Born in Babylon, both non-white and woman, what did I see to be except for myself? I made it up here on this bridge between sunshine and clay. My one hand holding so tight my other hand. Won't you celebrate with me that every day something has tried to kill me and has failed? That is a poem by the poet Lucille Clifton. Lucille Clifton is a poet whose words about womanhood, Blackness, and resiliency has had a profound impact on my life and my ways of seeing myself. Her words, her voice are one of the many voices that help guide me in my daily becoming, connecting me deeply to the stories that I was born into, that we were born into. On more than one occasion, I have said that this poem is my life story in poetic form. The lines resonate very deeply within me. They evoke an affirmation of who I am. They are reminders that self-compassion is essential for us. That offering ourselves gentleness, kindness, patience, nurturing, and care, like we do for others so very easily, when we face loss, disappointment, difficult times, and hardships. That self-compassion is essential and necessary. Our one hand holding tight our other hand, and then hopefully eventually being able to reach out and hold the hand of others. The words, the lines are also an invitation for celebration. And I sure love a celebration. They are an invitation to celebrate my strength, to celebrate my power, to celebrate the agency that we all have in shaping our lives. Shaping some kind of life is what she says. Here on the bridge between sunshine and clay, creation and death, beginnings and endings and endings and beginnings. Co-creating a life in the spaces where an ending has happened, what was no longer exists, and something new is coming that's not quite here yet. That in that space, we have agency and power to create life-giving things. That space, which we often call liminal space, is a very fertile and generative space. Liminal spaces are those psychological, emotional, and physical spaces of transition. They are the spaces where we have a lack of clarity and the structure of the past, and we don't quite have a very clear picture of what's ahead. They are the spaces where we're confronted with the fact that there's very little in this world that is certain. Where we have to realize that we are not in control of all things. It is the space where we must realize that even if we think we want and need the Wikipedia page that writes out the plot of our lives, letting us know how it will fold both individually and together, that doesn't exist, and that we may not actually need it, because we definitely cannot access it. And I'm going to tell you, that space is a very difficult space to be in. And I'm sure there are many of us in this room who are feeling the liminality of now and finding it really difficult to inhabit it, to show up to it, to feel like we do have any agency and power within it. Oh, it is a very hard space. And believe me, I know, because I am what some may call a certainty seeker in recovery. I am the one in this room who, when watching a movie that I'm getting really involved in, and the writer is doing the right thing because my emotions are everywhere, and I'm so invested that I pull out my phone to go to Wikipedia to search the plot so that I can know the ending. And for many people in this room, I am sure that is a travesty. And I'm okay with that. Because for me, it provides some ease and allows me to kind of lean in and actually be present to the stories unfolding. Again, a certainty control seeker in recovery. But if I'm honest, that also allows me sometimes to opt out and not finish the film because I don't like where the story's going. And I don't like not having power in how the story's going, because I would have so written it differently. For many years, control and knowing is what I thought would keep me safe. And this need ended up fostering habits that I cultivated that shaped within me these tendencies that often made it really hard for me to be vulnerable, for me to be present to the journey of life as it was unfolding, for me to show up in spaces fully as myself. And that kind of life can be oppressive and feel oppressive when you cannot show up in a space because you don't quite know how you will be received, how you'll be cared for, if you'll be seen as yourself. And what those tendencies did was led to constant burnout, high anxiety, depression, and long bouts of loneliness. And that is not the life, I think we've heard it tonight, of abundancy that God desires for us. And then, 2 years ago, I was thrown at the door of a threshold that I was wholly unprepared for. My marriage ended, and with it, 10 years of life as I had known it. And I found myself so weighted with grief, feeling a pain and an ache that I'd never felt before, realizing once again that I was not in control, that certain things weren't certain, that these habits I developed weren't actually serving and helping me. And like many of us, when we're thrown in situations, these liminal spaces, these moments of transitions, the questions start to stir in our head that are often born from our desire to know the future, as if knowing will help to ease the pain just a little bit and help us to endure. And so I started asking the questions. God, are you indeed with me? When will this aching stop? What's next? Will I love again and be loved again? And how long will that take? How am I supposed to make a life here on this bridge, sustain an art practice, create art, while simultaneously trying to hold a life together? The questions, they just kept spinning. And moments felt extended and so very heavy and unbearable at times. I felt lost. And I also did not want to lose myself to this particular moment in the story. And so I sat between those two feelings of lost and not wanting to be lost, on the bridge between sunshine and clay. And I indeed had my one hand grab my other hand and began to figure out new habits I could cultivate to not only live and survive, but as Maya Angelou speaks of, thrive in this life. And so that required me, as I was standing in this place, to move from a place of fear and desire to control to a place of curiosity. So the questions changed. The cultivations of habits changed. It became, what if I was to return to the practice of reading Lectio Divina with poetry? Lectio Divina is Latin for divine seeing, and we use it in our faith tradition as a way of slowly, prayerfully reading scripture. But through my past liminal spaces, when I dug into my duffel bag, I realized that Lectio Divina with poetry was really life-giving for me. Hanging out with the poets who are experts at putting words to things that are sometimes, the sighs are so deep, we can't find the words. The poets help us to find them. The poets are able to write about the human experience, the beauty, the messiness, the sacredness of it all in ways that help us feel less alone. Ways that can hold us, that love and life, and I would say God, can hold us through these really honest, raw stories of life. And so I thought, what if I let the words of Lucille Clifton, Danez Smith, Sienna Rouse, Mary Oliver, Ada Limon, Ross Gay, what if I let them wash over me and be my companions during this time? What if I truly believed my art studio was a sanctuary where I could bring my full self into the space, everything I was feeling, everything I was thinking, and make art and believe that it was strong enough to hold it? When I first began my art practice after transitioning from ministry, I had an opportunity to partner with the church. And this church commissioned me to create 9 6 feet by 6 feet abstract paintings. And I said yes, confidently. But in my mind, I was like, what have I said yes to? God be with me. And the art store, local art store in town, they knew about the commission. They knew I had these canvases. And I went in to buy some paint and some things, and the manager said, "How are those big canvases going?" I was like, "They're the masterpiece of minimalism." And he said, "Oh goodness, get yourself a big brush and just paint big. Just paint big. And remember that the canvas is big enough to hold all of your energy and hold all of your truth. Take it to the canvas." And so during this time, I thought, what if those words are true? And that the art, I can bring all of this to my art. I don't have to hold it back. This is a space and a place for release and letting it out and telling a story. I thought, I wonder if I got serious about trauma therapy, was intentional about it, and meditation, where every morning I would meditate, be still, and know that I am God. Would that help me get through the day, the hour, the minutes? What if I practiced vulnerability with people who wanted to love me, who allowed me to be seen and cared for, and make some mess along the way, but fostering deep connections and relationships in this space? What if? What if tomorrow I try to do what Mary Oliver said in her instructions for living a life? Pay attention, be astonished, and tell about it. What if we were to do that? To live our days paying attention, allowing ourselves to be astonished by this life that we are a part of. And astonished, yes, by the beauty of it, because it is beautiful and sweet at times, but also astonished by the difficult things that are really hard for us to see, that may make us opt out. What if we paid attention and were astonished by the laws and words being spoken that are full of racism and misogyny and homophobia, and we allowed ourselves to be so astonished by it that we couldn't help but be compelled to tell about it in ways that were authentic and honest and true for us? And for me, that's through my art. But we all have a sphere of influence. We all have a voice. We all have agency to speak for those things that we care about, to co-create the worlds that we are dreaming of, even in this moment of liminality. It's so easy for us sometimes to think, I don't have any power. But I'm here to tell you that as a divine manifestation of a good, creative God, you do. And it takes work, it takes intentionality, it takes cultivating communities and relationships that enables you to live into these things that you're stirred to create and give into the world. But we can do it because I do believe, I dream of a world that is just, that is equitable, that is humane, where everyone is seen and everyone is cared for. So as you see, when I started asking questions of curiosity, I started actually living. I started actually believing what I saw, and that is that these liminal spaces and uncertain spaces and mystery can also be very generative ground. It's a space alive with possibility, where we can grow, where we can heal, where we can make things happen. And so I continue to dream, and I hope I'm dreaming with you. that we can walk and stand on this bridge between starshine and clay and thrive, cultivating habits and lives that helps us to be here now, love now, be loved now. I hope you will dream and live and walk with me.